This
This
classification
conference will
algorithm,
now be recorded.
whereas classification algorithms which are categorized as supervised and unsupervised. So we have seen what is supervised learning and also what is unsupervised learning. So in supervised learning, so these are the few classification algorithms: logistic, k-nearest, support vector, and decision tree. In unsupervised, these are the few k-means and anomaly detection. So first we will see basic overview of all these algorithms. So in linear regression, the relation between input and output is linear. Suppose you have the classification variables. Classification means, suppose it is binary classification, then y will be either 1 or it will be 0. So these are the values which are y is 1, and these are the values which are y is 0. So that means up to this point, x is less than this point, they belong to one class. X is more than this class, they belong to another class. So when you use the straight line, it is not efficient in classifying these values. Okay. So on this side, you are getting one, and one side it is cutting the between two lines. So it is not efficient. So if you have a relation between x and y such that it is a logistic function, this kind of curve, we call it as logistic function. So all these ones will fall on one side and all these zeros will fall on another side. So in logistic regression, the relation between x and y is logistic. So normally we will define a threshold, for example 0.5. Suppose 0.5 is the default threshold. The values which are giving less than 0.5 will belong to one class, and the values which are getting more than 0.5 will belong to another class. Okay, this is the linear regression. Sorry, logistic regression. So if you see an example, so this is the example of number of hours studied, and so x-axis is the number of hours studied, 0 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. So as you can see, if you study more, you will pass more. So if you study less, you will chances of failing is more. So if y is equal to 0, it is fail. Y is equal to 1, it is pass. So up to this point, most of them are passing, and after this one, more are failing. So it can be classified depending on this one. That means if you study more, you are passing. If you study less, you are failing. Okay. So this is logistic regression. So next one is nearest neighbor. So yesterday we have seen some brief introduction. So in this one, these blue squares and red triangles belong to two classes. This blue one is class 1 and triangle is class 2. Okay. So total there are under class 1 there are 6 points, and class 2 there are 5 points. So total 11 samples. So these 11 samples will consist of training data or training examples. So this green dot is the one for which you have to decide the class. So we have to decide that this should belong to class 1 or this should belong to class 2. So for that one, you can use the k nearest neighbor to decide to which class it belongs. So in this algorithm, you will be first finding distance between all the points from the point for which you have to decide the class. So this gray from green dot you will calculate distance to all the 11 points. If there are n number of points, n distances you have to calculate, which is Euclidean distance. Okay, so you'll find distance with this one, and all the points. So total level 11 distances you will get. So sort them in the ascending order. Sort all these 11 distances in the order and take the first k number of distances. So distance for starting k distances means these are the k nearest neighbor. Suppose I have taken k is equal to 3. So in ascending, when the distances are arranged in the ascending order, I will take the first three. That means the nearest 3 points, which are nearest to the point green dot, which are nearest to green dot. Okay. So suppose this is that circle representing 3 nearest neighbors. So this one, these 3 are closer to our point which we have to decide the class. So in the, out of these three points, 2 triangles are there and 1 square is there. So majority is triangle. So this point will belong to triangle class according to the algorithm. Suppose I take k is equal to 5. So then this outer circle will represent the nearest 5 neighbors. So in this one, 3 are squares and 2 are triangles. So now it will belong to the square blue color class, that is class 1. Okay, so it depends on what is the value of k you are taking. Normally we will take k as odd number so that there is no indecision. If odd number is there, either it should belong to any one of the class, no tie between the classes. Okay, either it will belong to class 1 or it will belong to class 2. So it depends on what value of k you are taking. Okay, so this is the k nearest neighbor. So if you see the application of this one, if you see the application, suppose there are images. Here there are total 7 images. 3 images, 2 images are of animals, 1 is telephone, and 4 images are of persons. So now you have a new image. So now what you will do is you have to decide which class, whether it is belongs to human beings, animals, or any object. So then you will calculate distance, the image distance. You can say last class we have seen that all the images can be classified, can be represented by a single point. So all these 7 images can be represented as a 7 points here. So new point will be somewhere here. Okay, so now we will calculate distance between all the images. So you suppose I take k is equal to 3, then I may get this image and this image. So all 3 are human beings. So you can say that it is a person. It is image of a human being. Okay, like that you can decide. So images can be classified based on the distances. So next one is support vector machine. So support vector machine uses a straight line as the separator, or as a curve as a decision boundary. So this wx minus 0, so this decision boundary is like a straight line, wx star minus wx means suppose w1 into x1 plus w2 into x2 plus or minus b is equal to 0. This is this decision boundary is written like this. So any point on this decision line will give this expression as 0. So these points on one side, okay, so these points on one side of the line will give a value less than 0. So if you substitute the values of points on one side, they will give less than 0, and the points on the other side will give greater than 0, whereas points on the line will give 0. So all the points which are giving less than 0, we can call it as class 1, and all the points which are giving greater than 0, we can call it as class 2. So this is the basic thing by which it will decide. So based on the points available, it will calculate the parameters of the line which is separating this one. The training algorithm, what it will do is, that means support vector machine training algorithm, what it will do is, it will find a straight line so that it is passing in between the two classes, separating two classes. Okay, so this is the support vector machine. So if you see the example, the email classification is an example, as spam mail or this one, spam mail and non-spam. So in this one, what will be done is the email will be having a text data. So all this text data is converted into the numbers. All text data is converted into the numbers, and it will see for the repeated images. Suppose it is saying a word lottery is appeared more in that one, then that letter will have more weight and it will be on the one side of the line. So on one side of the line you will have the spam mails depending on words. Suppose x1 is one of the word and x2 is another word. Suppose x1 is lottery. So if more terms consist of lottery like this, lottery and similar words here, so this class will belong to spam and this will belong to not spam. So depending on the words that are appearing in the body of the email, it can be classified into two types. Okay. So first the text data will be converted into numbers. So any word is repeating more, then that will be classified as spam or non-spam based on the what is that word. Okay. So you will have the previous data of emails. Sometimes the email will ask whether it is spam or not for us. So all those labeled data will be used for detection of the spam as training examples. It will have some data and it will also ask us to mark it as spam or non-spam. So if you mark it as spam, it will be labeled with a spam and that will be used in the training algorithm or the training data. Okay. So next one is decision tree. So decision tree is it can use labeled data. For example, here this tree is for playing tennis or not. We have to, so we call this outlook as the root node and last one as the leaf node. So leaf node will have the decision that you have to take, and all the root node and sub nodes will have the labels. These are called branches. These lines are called branches. Okay, so this is a decision algorithm for playing tennis or not, playing a tennis or not. So first you will see the outlook. So outlook is having three classes: sunny, overcast, or rain. So if we see the outlook, suppose it is coming as overcast. If we have the outlook variable and it is saying it is overcast, then we can play the tennis. If it is sunny, you have to see further for the humidity. If humidity is high, you cannot play. If the humidity is normal, you can play. So because it is yes. So like that, the decisions will go on. It will come from top to bottom. The last one will be the decision or the value which is the result or the output. So here two classes. You have to play the tennis, yes or no. So yes is class 1, no is class 2. Okay. So this is how decision tree will work. Okay. So next one is, so these are class supervised algorithms. So next one is unsupervised algorithm. So clustering is similar to the classification. Only difference is we will not have the labels for the output. The algorithm will itself find the group of items. For example, this is the data. For example, this is the data given. Here all are in green color. So we don't know which point belongs to which class. Earlier in this email class, in the SVM or the support vector machine, you will have a information that particular mail is spam or not. But here it is not available. All the points are in same color. So we don't know which belongs to class 1, which belongs to class 2. Suppose, so we have to give the number of the classes. Suppose I have given k is equal to 2. So the entire data will be divided into 2 classes. If I give k is equal to 3, so this you have to specify what is the number of classes or the clusters. So if k is equal to 2, entire data will be converted into 2 classes, and if k is equal to 3, entire data will be classified into 3 clusters. Suppose I have given k is equal to 2. So if you give k is equal to 2, to separate them into the clusters, you have to separate them into the 2 clusters. So what you will do is randomly you will give 2 centroids randomly. So here we have assigned one centroid here. This is the another centroid. If you see in the diagram B, since I have given k is equal to 2, I want to divide them into 2 classes or 2 clusters. So 2 centroids will be taken. So just like k and n, what here will be done is, so from each centroid, the distance of all the points will be calculated. This one, this one. So suppose 100 points are there. This is centroid 1 C1 and centroid C2. So if 100 points are there, the distance from 100 points to the C1, are you getting? 100 points, distance of 100 points to the C1, distance of 100 points to the C2. Okay, so whichever are having small distance with the centroid C1, they will be defined into cluster 1. For example, here see the image C, some are marked in red, some are marked in blue. So all the points which are marked as red are near to this centroid C1. So they belong to cluster 1. This is one step of the iteration. Okay, it is not the final solution. It is one step of the iteration. We have started randomly and we have calculated distance and we have seen the nearest point. So all these red dots are near to the C1. So temporarily we will assign it as a cluster 1. Similarly, all the blue dots will be nearer to this centroid C2. So we say that they belong to cluster 2. That is the in iteration, one iteration. So now what you will do is, you have classified or clustered all these red dots into one group. So what you have to do is, you can see that it is not the proper clustering, because all these are nearer, so it should become a cluster. So what you will do is, you will find the centroid of this temporary cluster. Out of this temporary cluster, you will calculate the centroid. If it is same as the previous one, then the algorithm ends. If there is a difference between these two, so this centroid of class 1 will be replaced with the centroid of this cluster. Okay, so if you see this, centroid of this class has been moved to here, and centroid of this class has been moved to here. Okay, so now you have to do the same procedure again. What you have done, we have taken the distances and which are nearer to the centroid are grouped into one cluster. So whatever are coming into that cluster, for that one we have calculated again centroid. So if the previous centroid and this one is having no variation, then we will stop the algorithm. But if there is difference, we will update the centroid to the new centroid. Okay, so now these are the updated centroids. So what you will do is, now again you will calculate the distances of all the points to the each centroid. So then this will be new clusters according to the updated this one. So now again what you will do, you will find the centroid of this cluster. So it comes here and this comes here. So we have to do the procedure till the centroid does not change in its value. So we will stop when both the new centroid and old centroid are same. Then you will stop the algorithm, and points which are nearer to the centroid 1 are classified as class 1, and which are cluster 1. The points which are close to the centroid 2, we call it as cluster 2. So this is how this algorithm will work. It depends on how many classes you are giving. You have to specify the number of clusters. Okay, Based on that one, it will be divided into that many clusters based on the procedure I have explained. Okay. So example of this one is customer segmentation. For example, you have the banks will be having so many customers, and for any product targeting, they want to segment the customers. For example, you take two attributes. One is age. One attribute you take is age. One attribute you take it as income. This is X1 and this is X2. So based on these two variables, we want to segment all the customers. For example, pensioners are there. They will have more age but less income. Income is less but age is more. So all of them will come into one cluster. So some executives are there. Their age will be medium but their income will be high. So they will come into another cluster. So based on the attributes, we can do cluster them into different classes. So now we can target our product to different groups. Okay, this you may target some product, maybe a home loan to the executives, like that. Okay, so which income is more, there is more chance that they will take the home loan. So it will help in making strategies in the business. Customer segmentation will help in making the strategic decisions for the banks or financial institutions, like that. Okay, the data will be very large. It will be done by automatically by computer program which is implemented using k-means clustering. Okay, so this is the application of k-means. And the last one is anomaly detection. So anomaly detection is this one. So you have all the points grouped here, but this point is out of this circle. So for example, you will take the average of all these points, then this point will be away from the average. So like that, you can decide the using statistical methods, you can classify some of the points into the anomalies or the outliers. So here if you see, the x-axis is average purchases per week. So as the number of purchases are more, then only the cost will be high. But here the purchases are less, but the amount is high. Okay, so it will be a outlier. Okay, so this can be a fraud on the credit card. Okay, so this is the anomaly detection. Okay, so these are the various classification algorithms. If you have any doubts, you can ask. So we will see in detail some of the algorithms, both supervised and unsupervised, in the coming classes. After learning the coding, then you can go for the algorithms. So I will hand over to the Bapuji sir.
Yeah, thank you, Satish sir. All of you, I hope you got better understanding about the classification algorithms. If you have any doubt, please let me know. Okay, so classification is very simple to understand. Okay, it is simple, right? Classifying gender, male or female, classifying animals, classifying fruits. Okay, so classifying news, classifying emails, classifying music, classification of movies. So it's like there are so many problems every day we encounter. Okay, basically 60 to 75% of all machine learning algorithms works with classification technique. Okay, so try to understand all 60 to 70% of machine learning algorithms works with classification. Okay, so generally regression will be used very less, okay, when compared with the classification. Okay, so classification, if you see Amazon recommendations, actually Amazon recommendation uses classification techniques. If you see LinkedIn recommendations, they also use classification. If you see Flipkart is using classification. So these are the examples okay, the companies which are using classification algorithms. Okay, so today I'm going to discuss about Python programming. Okay, so why we need to learn Python, what we are going to learn, so what is Python programming, so we're going to discuss about it. Okay, I'll be sharing now. Right, so all of you can see my screen, right? Can you see my screen? Okay, so right, fine. See, Python programming was started in 1989 by Guido van Rosen. Okay, so he has started this particular Python programming. The first release was in 1991. Okay, he actually invented this Python programming with a philosophy. What is the philosophy behind inventing this Python programming? Okay, so this is actually writing less code, less money, okay, less time. So implementing a program with a less resources, so means using less code means number of lines of code will be reduced, using less amount of money, at the same time less time also. Okay, for example, if you want to implement a project, sometimes it may take more than days, right? So if you use C programming, okay, so when compared with C programming with Python programming is very easy. Okay, you can actually write programs, okay, within very less time when compared with the programs that you develop by using C program. Okay, so initially Python program was developed by using C language. Remember, initially Python program was developed by using C language, and then it is managed by non-profit organization called as Python Software Foundation. Right, nowadays Python is the wonderful software being used by most of the companies. Okay, I think all of you will agree, right? So all of you can understand my voice, right? If you have any difficulty, please let me know. Okay, so if you are facing any difficulty, I will change my face. Okay, so right, this is about Python programming, right? So in there are so many real world products developed by using Python. Okay, if you see Quora, okay, maybe you are using Quora, Dropbox, YouTube, Google search engine, Instagram, Reddit, okay, and then if you see Facebook, okay, you might be using Facebook. So these are all products, right? These are all products you may be using in everyday life, but behind actually Python is working. So most of the products were developed by using Python, because Python is simple, at the same time it is a versatile in implementing programs. Okay, so most of the products are using Python now. Okay, so why Python for machine learning? Why we should use Python for machine learning? There are different programming languages. Okay, some are using R programming, some people are using Java, some people are using Julia. Okay, so but even AWS, Amazon Web Services is providing different platforms to work. Okay, but why we need to use Python for machine learning? See, Python is very useful for beginners. For example, you are all beginners, right? You are new to Python programming, so it's a very simple, because it uses simple communication, day-to-day communication. Okay, as we communicate, the programming language also uses our communication English. That's the advantage of using Python programming. Okay, so for example, for printing, you generally say print, right? Same statement you use for in Python to print something. It's easy, right? For example, to give the inputs, generally in C language you use scanf, right? But here directly you can use input. Okay, input will take inputs from the user, print will print the output. It's a very easy, because everything whatever may be the programming instructions we have in Python, okay, everything is very simple and readable, we can easily understand. Okay, syntax is easy, you can go with the fewer lines of code, it is very expressive. Okay, so means the programming language itself explains everything to us about the code that you have written. At the same time, it is free and open source. Remember, this is free and open source, but with a license called as BSD license. Okay, when it has a BSD license, you can use Python program for commercial use. You can use this for commercial use. So that's why most of the companies are using this free and open source software in their commercial products. Okay, at the same time, it is high level and interpreter language. Remember, interpreter language, there is a difference between interpreter language. So what is interpreter language? Interpreter language is the language where each statement will be executed one by one. Okay, so it will be compiled and executed line by line. Compiler is different from interpreter. Remember, generally C program you have compilers, right? So whereas in Python we have interpreter. Okay, so there are similarities between interpreters and compilers, but what is the difference between an interpreter and a compiler? Generally, interpreter means it will be compiling each line and executing each line, whereas in compilers, generally what they will do, they will convert all the code, okay, into machine code, and then it will execute. That is, generally it will convert high level language into low level language. Okay, that is the language to be understood by the machine. Okay, and it will complete the execution. Okay, it will be doing after writing entire program, it will be executing. But whereas in interpreter, so line by line you can actually execute the code. Okay, that is the advantage of Python. So while working with the Python, line by line you can execute everything. Okay, you can check the results also. Okay, that is the advantage of using Python. So these are all advantages we have when we use Python. So Python is simple. Okay, even 7th class student also can learn. So actually my kid is studying now 2nd class. So she was able to do mathematical calculations present in her textbook just before 4 days. Okay, she started learning it. Okay, so you can anyone can learn Python programming. It is easy during foundation. When you go for advanced, it may be somewhat difficult. Okay, because it uses OOPS concept. For basics, it is very easy. Okay, but when you go into advanced, okay, then you have to learn. You have to keep some time to learn. Okay. Right, if you see the example, okay, so for example, I want to print hello world. You want to print hello world in the program. All of you know basic C programming because you have learned it in your first year of undergraduation in your engineering maybe. Okay, so to print hello world, this is the simple one line code you can use. Remember, this is the single line of code you can write to print hello world, whereas in C programming you have to write all, how many lines you are writing here. So see the difference between C program and Python program. Okay, so here you have 5 lines of code, but whereas in Python program you have only one single line of code. Okay, that is the actual advantage of using Python program, and it is very simple. Directly you say print in double quotes hello world, it will printing hello world, right? So this is that much easy. And then if you see, Python has 2 versions. Remember, Python initially started with Python 1, and then now it is actually Python 3. So most of the companies were using Python 2. Remember, most of the companies are using Python 2. Okay, so many products were developed by using Python 2, but Python 3 came recently. Remember, there are 2 types of distributions in Python. One is Python 2, version Python 2, another version is Python 3. We are going to write all the code in Python 3 only. Okay, remember, we are going to write code in Python 3, but Python 2, but most of the companies are using Python 2. For example, if you see Instagram, Facebook, all of them have developed their all systems were developed in Python 2 only. Now there is a difference between Python 2 and Python 3. For there are few differences between Python 2 and Python 3. Python 3 is somewhat present, and it is also future because it contains some of the advanced very good functionalities which are not present in Python 2. Okay, so we are going to explore, okay, what are the best functions Python 3 has when compared with the Python 2. Okay, we'll be discussing about, but we call Python 2 as legacy. Why we call Python 2 as legacy? Because already most of the companies are using it, right? So now to shift from Python 2 to Python 3, a company has to invest a lot of money. Okay, because it's a matter of money investment, because they want to shift the entire code from one platform to other platform, see, one version to other version. So it may take some more time. So in order to minimize the time, generally some of the people are keeping only Python 2, because they have to keep more resources to upgrade from Python 2 to Python 3, whereas the companies currently, those companies who are developing products today are using Python 3 only. Okay, both are very same, so we should learn Python 3, because all of the new companies, startups, those companies who already developing new product are using Python 3. So our preference must be given to Python 3 only, right? Right. So in see, remember, Python is very useful for machine learning. So machine learning has different stages. So here I have mentioned different stages of machine learning. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages of machine learning. Okay. So in all 5 stages, you can use Python program. See, Python is enough for all the stages. Okay, you can use Python for getting data, to clean data, prepare data. You can use Python for training the model. You can use Python to testing the model. You can use Python model for deploying. You can use Python program. So I will be giving you brief about what are these 5 stages, how Python will be helpful. Okay. Yeah, there is a question by Grishma. Grishma, yes, your question is, what is the difference between Python 2 and Python 3? So Python 3 is upgraded version of Python 2. It's very simple. Upgraded version of Python 2. So in Python 3, we have, actually Python 3, the Python Software Foundation claims that Python 3, they were able to make it fast when compared with Python 2. Okay, that is advantage, and there are some more functions we are going to discuss about those functions. For example, if you see there is a for input, you need to give input. Okay, there is a raw underscore input function in Python 2, but in Python 3 we don't have raw underscore input. In Python 3 we have input only. Okay, for taking strings, for string inputs, we need to use raw underscore input in Python 2, whereas in Python 3 we can use directly input only. Okay, so likewise there are so many functions which are deferred. Okay, so and there are some libraries which are designed only for Python 3. We'll be discussing about them. Okay, remember Python 3 and Python 2 are very similar. Okay, you can do for example, you want to do some application, you can do some application Python 2 and Python 3. Okay, so both will be the same, the coding also will be the same. Okay, only the functionality, only few differences, okay, will be there. Okay, that is only the difference. Python 3 is the upgraded version, so it is preferable to use Python 3. Okay, right, clear? Is this clear, Grishma? Okay, thank you. So if you have a question, you can post it in the chat box. Okay, right, I'll be explaining you all the 5 stages of machine learning. Okay, stage 1, getting data. Right, so where to get data? For example, you want to build a machine learning model. So to build a machine learning model, what do we need? Experience, right? We already discussed, right? We need experience. See, giving experience to a machine is nothing but machine learning. Okay, so how we are going to give experience to a machine? Yes, experience is nothing but data. Remember, experience is nothing but data. Okay, so data consists of both inputs and outputs. Remember, data consists of both inputs and outputs. So this is the data. For example, suppose the data will be like this. Okay, movies data. What is the movies data? So movies data is like name of the movie, director name. So I'll be giving an example for movies data, for example. Okay, so movie name of the movie, director name, and then you have cast means, okay, all information about the character and the real person who has acted in that. And then actors, ratings, views, release date, language. Okay, these are all actually subtitles available or not. These are all different parameters generally you will see in the movie, right? And then genres means action movie or history movie or war movie or melody, or there are different types of movies, right? So this is called as genres, right? So these are all parameters. If you have data of 1,000 movies, 5,000 movies suppose, so 5,000 movies have the names for the movie, and then you have director's name, you have cast, you have actors, and then you have different parameters. Okay, and you have genres. So you have all this data. You have all this data. This is called data. So this data can be in different formats. Remember, this data can be in different formats. Okay, so there is a format called as Excel. How many of you know Excel? Excel, Microsoft Excel. You might have heard about it, right? Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. So this is .xlsx file. So this is a Microsoft. The data can be in Excel format or data can be in JSON format. How many of you heard about JSON? JSON is nothing but JavaScript. So you see object notation, JavaScript object notation. This is also another data format. Remember, JavaScript object notation format is another format. And then you have CSV format. What is CSV? CSV is nothing but comma separated values. Comma separated values. This is one format. Okay, so data will be in different formats. Some data will be available in SQL database, relational database. Maybe it is in database. Okay, or it can be in text format, so data can be in different formats, or it may be in the image format. Okay, so remember, this data may be stored in SQL, may be stored in CSV format, may be stored as Excel format, or may be stored in JSON format. So now you have this data. How to get this data? Where is this data? So this is the data formats, but where is the data? Where you have this data? Data may be in your computer, or server, maybe data in website, or maybe data in some cloud, or maybe data in some SQL. So data will be somewhere, right? So it may not be in your computer. Sometimes it may be in your computer. Okay, sometimes it will be in the cloud. Some data may be available in the web. So you have to read, for example, data is available in web, then you have to read data from this web into your Python program. How to do that? So for reading data from website, or to read data from cloud, or to read data from SQL database, or to read data from a computer, we have methods. In Python. To read data. Okay, so we are going to use different methods available in Python to read different formats of data present in different sources, available in different sources. Okay, so this is called as getting data. So if you have any doubt, please let me know about the stage 1. Any doubt regarding stage 1? Right, no doubts. Okay, thank you. So I'll be going forward. So after getting data, now in your Python program, you are able to read the data. Now you have data in your code. Okay, it is available now after this. Okay, now you have to clean the data. What is cleaning data? sometimes data may not be complete. Remember, sometimes data may not be complete. What does that mean? Okay, for example, in the movie data, some movies, okay, in the data, maybe somebody has prepared this data, right? Somebody should be there to prepare this data. Title is there, names will be present, cast is present. Sometimes director name may be missing. Some, for example, this is null value, means it is not available, not available. Cast name is not available. So for 5,000 movies, maybe 100 movies may not have director's name. Maybe 50 movies may not have cast. Okay, so the values are missing. Okay, so now how to tackle with the missing data? Okay, to tackle the missing data, okay, we can use this manipulating data. Okay, what we will do, wherever there is no data, you have to fill that with some space, empty space. You can use empty space character to fill that NA, not available data. Okay, you can clean also. If there is comma, you want to delete commas present in the names, you can do that. Okay, so it's a clean, prepare and manipulate data. We'll do this process. Once you have data, next data will be prepared for training. So this is the preparation stage. For preparation stage, we have different methods in Python. Remember, we have NumPy. NumPy is a module. Okay, these terms are new to you, all of you. If you are new to the Python program, if you are new to machine learning, these terms may be seeming to be difficult for you. Don't worry. Okay, so in the introduction you will be listening to the so many terms. Okay, but as we go on, you'll be working with them. Okay, so you'll be working with NumPy. NumPy is a package, and then Pandas also a package. We'll be discussing about them. So NumPy and Pandas are very useful for cleaning data, preparing data, and also to manipulate data. Okay, so right, you understood about stage 2. Okay, this is about getting data, this is about preparing data. So after preparing data, then we have to train the model. So you have the model, right? How to train the model? To train the model, we have a package called as scikit. Scikit-learn. Remember, scikit-learn is a machine learning package. Is a machine learning package. We are going to use this scikit-learn package to train the model. We heard about regression, right? We learned about regression. Regression has 3 types, right? Linear regression, simple linear regression, multiple linear regression method, and then you have seen polynomial regression. So all of these regression methods are available in scikit-learn. Remember that. Okay, so you can use all the regression methods available in the scikit-learn. Okay, and you can do it very easily with 3 lines. If you do manually, okay, manual it may be taking 150 lines of code to write one regression problem, but you can solve it by using 3 lines of code by using scikit-learn. So that is the easiest way of writing machine learning algorithms, by using Python, because Python has all these packages. Okay, right, so we have seen how to get data, and then we have seen cleaning, preparing and manipulating data, and then the next stage is training the model. Okay, so we train the model based on this prepared data. So this prepared data is the input to the model. Remember, this prepared data is input to the model. Okay, and then this will generate an equation or a model, okay, which we will be using to predict the values. Okay, so next will be predicting. Okay, predicting, okay, maybe it may be a classification or maybe it is a regression, but we are going to predict, right? So I'll be closing the session for now. Okay, so what we have learned today, we have seen classification algorithms. Okay, so you have seen KNN, what is k-nearest neighbor. You have seen what is SVM, support vector machine algorithm. You have seen k-means. Okay, and then you have seen anomaly detection also. I hope you have understood about those algorithms. Okay, if you are not clear about them, okay, so please let us know. Okay, we are going to discuss about them when we are really doing projects. Okay, right. So for now I'll be closing the session. If you have any doubts, floor is open, you can ask the question, please. Yes, Divisri, Reshma, Harshita, Jesse, Jessica, Vaishnavi, Kiran, Manasa, Preeti, Sriya, Ram, Sai Kirti, Sai Ram, Sridipti, Sri Ganesh, Sri Suryakala, Ashwini. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Is this clear? Yeah, I'm not getting any response in the chat. I am waiting for your response to close. Okay, very good, Ashwini. Okay. See, engage with me. Okay, write something in the chat so that I will understand that you have understood things. Okay, right. Thank you all. I'll be closing the session, so you'll be getting this video late in the night by 9 o'clock. Yeah, thank you.